What is up? Welcome back to another video. Now in today's video we're going to be talking about something very important, something I kind of touched on briefly a few weeks ago. Underrated beginner SLR camera systems. What a mouthful. But this is a little bit more specific than that, a little bit more niche than that. This is underrated beginner electronic SLR sleeper cameras. Now I say sleeper not because they're tired, I am very tired, but that's beside the point. I'm saying sleeper because these have definitely flown under the radar, under my radar even. And it wasn't until I got a couple of these in my possession that I thought I should probably talk about them. And so that's what we're going to do here today. I have a short list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cameras to talk about. Some of these have some known issues that I will touch on briefly. As always, I'm only going to talk about cameras that I think are widely accessible, very affordable, and relatively easy to repair, or at least enough people know how to repair them that the repair cost isn't going to be very steep. Accessible meaning the lenses available are going to be readily available and affordable. If you want to explore different focal lengths, it's not going to be an arm and a leg. The final housekeeping note: stick around to the end of the video for a surprise. Watch the whole thing, or skip to the end if you want to, but watch the whole thing so you don't miss out on that. We're going to jump in with the camera that kind of began this whole thought process in my mind, and that is this, the Nikon EL2. The reason I'm selecting this camera is because they're very weird. The battery is actually located in the mirror box of the camera system. It has an auto setting. It has a really nice shutter sound to it as well. It's crisp, it's light, mechanical feel to it there too. And beyond all that, they just kind of work. It looks like it hasn't aged a day. It has very clean bottom plate by virtue of there not being a battery compartment on it. It has a very clean top plate as well. Very bright viewfinder, predecessor to something like a Nikon FE. Although for one very, very important reason, I would argue that this is better than an FE or an FM. And that is because you can fire this with the advance lever locked in place right here. Meaning if you're left eye dominant like I am, I'm not going to be lobotomizing myself because the advance lever is sticking out. For that reason alone, I think it's worth talking about. The size of this is relatively nice. It has a good feel in the hand, has a mirror up switch, it has a stop down lever, it has all these lovely features to it. It is missing a memo slot on the back. You still have a battery indicator. You also have a top ASA available of 3200, which is very modern. You have one flash port on the side, a hot shoe on the top. It's a really clean camera. It's a really nice camera, and these things are going for pennies. So get your hands on one if you want. It also utilizes the F mount, so lenses are going to be a dime a dozen and very high quality. That is the first of two Nikon selections. The EL2 I think is pretty good. This is the N2000. Now, this is also known in some markets as the F301, which sounds like a fighter jet, but this is one of Nikon's first motorized camera systems, meaning that it's all motored. There's no advance lever. There is a manual rewind lever, very similar to the F4. Maybe I'm getting that wrong. Maybe the F4 doesn't have the manual rewind. Anyway, the Nikon N2000 is the beginner variation of this next series of Nikon cameras. Still utilizes the F mount, which means you have that same accessibility to lenses as you do with the Nikon EL2, but you do have some other quality of life differences. The downside to these is it does take AAA batteries. Ugh, I know. The upside is that these are like $10 online. The AAA batteries corrode often. It's kind of an easy thing to fix though if you have a screwdriver. I've got a video for it if you want to check it out. I'll try to link it up there. If not, I'll just make a little piece on this camera itself. It's a pretty solid little camera, very, very affordable, pretty nice. And another like special shout out would be for the N2020 or the F3 something or another, and that is the first autofocus variation of these. So if you want autofocus, Bob's your uncle on that count. They're also very affordable, but this is just one I had on hand. They're really nice for what it is. Feels good. Has like this nice clean leather feel to it. Little memo window, so you can see what film you have loaded in there. This is also the first camera with a DX code reading. You can also manually put in whatever DX code you have. And it has a top shutter speed of 1/2000th, a couple different auto settings, pretty decent speed of the motor as well if you're taking like action shots for whatever reason. And yeah, just it looks clean, it feels good in the hand, it has a nice little grip to it, and it has this lovely little horizontal red line, which is kind of an evolution of the red line in the F3. We have a couple more I want to talk about, then we have one more example in-house here that I will get to. Now the next one we have is a Pentax camera. And in this instance, you might be thinking, oh, he's just going to talk about the ME Super again. Of course, that's all this guy does. And as much as me wants to do that, because you can still find Pentax ME Supers for nothing on the internet, like it's almost criminal how affordable they are. This next one is a slight evolution to that system, and that is the Pentax Super program. Now these are going to be a little bit pricier. It is purely electronic, unlike the ME Super that has mechanical speeds of 1/125th and bulb. And normally I would mark a camera down for that because I kind of like having a Hail Mary mechanical mode in case something goes wrong, you forget to bring extra batteries, whatever. But in this, I feel like it does a pretty good job of evolving from what the ME Super was into what Pentax was looking to create, which inevitably led to the LX. You have a displaced photoresistor, so it's not behind the viewfinder. I think that's kind of nice. You have a much more refined electronic system. You have two different displays for your shutter speeds. I really like having that external screen to kind of see what shutter speed you're at. You don't have to look through the viewfinder. And speaking of the viewfinder, you do have the very helpful backlight for that LCD screen in the viewfinder. Just a little quality of life thing that I think greatly improves the experience of using the camera system. You also have a much more ergonomic feel to the camera with the rear grip and a front grip attachment. And you have a stop-down lever as well as a self-timer, which granted does have a very kind of weird pitched beeping sound. Now this next one is a bit of a left field selection. This is going based off of a little bit of research that I've done. I don't really stand by it too much, but I'm half tempted to, jump in the deep end and see. This is the Olympus OM-10. To fully encapsulate this experience, I want to begin with a tale. When I first began working at a warehouse where we were testing and refurbishing cameras to resell on the internet, there was a camera that would often come through, which was a Olympus OMG. And the elder gentleman that I was working with at the time, shoutouts to Rich, he would oftentimes look at the OMG and he would just say, OMG, this camera's terrible, and then put it very far away from him. And as much as I would like to say that I'm resilient to influence from advertisements and from, corporations and things like that, there was something about an older man saying, OMG, this is terrible, that really stuck with me because one, it's hilarious. And two, it was very true. The cameras that would often come in were disgusting, and the OMG was no exception. Now, the reason this is coming into play is because the OMG is the evolution of the OM-10, which is another camera some of you may know I really loathe in many different ways. So the OMG, the OM-10, that's 0 for 2. And then there was the OM-PC. It was called the OM-40 in some markets, but I don't believe they actually sold it in Japan. I think it was purely a foreign market camera, which is never really a good sign. Typically, a Japanese company not wanting to sell their camera in Japan would lead one to think that it's just kind of dookie, that they're trying to fling at the rest of the world in order to maximize profits, without tarnishing the reputation of the brand and their home country. That's just speculation on my front. I don't know if that's true or not, but that is the indication that I receive when I read that information. So I initially thought, okay, well, the OMPC has got to be terrible. I've seen a few of them. The leatherette on the camera fades. It has this really kind of weird salt and pepper kind of look to it, like a middle-aged man. So I'm like, I don't really dig that vibe too much. But as I read into it, I was like, oh, this is an improvement on all of the things I didn't like about the OM-10. This is just the next evolution in Olympus's consumer-grade camera systems. So I kind of feel confident in saying that the OMPC might not be the worst camera in the world, and some could even argue it's a pretty okay camera. Now, there are a few issues, obviously. because it's a magnetic based camera. The OM-10 and the OMG, I know for a fact, have had magnetic release issues causing the shutter to jam up. These are fixable issues. The OMPC might suffer from similar things. I've not really looked into it too much. I don't really even know anyone who has an OMPC, to be completely honest, or an OM40. So I could be speaking completely out of school. It could be the worst camera of all time. Based off of the Carfax, I'm thinking that's all right. But I've not shot with one. I've not really worked on one, so I can't speak for certain. But I did feel inclined to bring up an Olympus camera, and that's one that might require a little bit more research, but I think it could potentially be pretty okay. And the final camera that we have today is this, the Canon AG-1. And I can't believe I'm doing this, but the Canon AG-1 is actually kind of okay. Now, the reason I say it's kind of okay is because it is not a great camera. It's a good camera. Much in the same way that the AE1 is a good camera, I think this is also a very good camera. It has very simple controls. It has very limited options in terms of what it can do, but it's a very good just beginner or even secondary camera system if you already have Canon lenses, things of that nature. It has a much more beginner-friendly feel to it than something like an AE1 or even an AE1 program. You have just 5 different selections here: auto, 60 flash sync speed, bulb, an auto for the self timer, and a flash sync speed for the timer as well. So what is the catch here? I don't know. Latch for the battery door, I've seen those fall off. There's been some, like literally 2, I've seen that have had cataclysmic electronic failure to the point where it's not really worth repairing them. But that's about it. The price of these is pretty low. Uses the FD mount system, which is pretty well renowned for its third-party availability. It's about the same size as the AE1 program and a fraction of the price sometimes. It's kind of in a similar situation as like the KM is to the K1000, where because it isn't the name brand, it's a little bit cheaper. You don't have the same controls. You don't really have the, manual shutter speed selection. You're stuck on the auto. But the auto, from what I can tell, is actually pretty decent. It's just a much more boiled down basic version of an AE1. Now, some could say something like the AT1 or the AL1 could fit in this class. And I would say the AT1 is a pretty okay camera. There's a few different exceptions to it. It's much more simple than the AE1 in terms of not having a shutter speed priority mode, or the availability to shoot in that mode. And I feel like the cost on the AT1 is usually pretty comparable to the AE1, or at least the AE1 program. And then the AL1, while it does have the quick focus feature, which is kind of fun, the battery compartment is a known point of failure, so much to the point where I can't even recommend them, despite the fact that I do think it has a kind of funky little grip. This one has a grip built into it as well. It's very subtle, it's nice. And the battery compartment on this one happens to work, and it takes the 6-volt battery. So it's a pretty good camera in that way. There's probably a lot of issues with it, but for the price, and if you just want a simple electronic operated camera, this might be up your alley. Now for the special surprise that I promised at the beginning of this video would be at the end of this video. I'm going to put up a poll, and on this poll are going to be all of the cameras that I talked about today. And what you can do is you can select one of those cameras, vote on it. And whatever camera gets the most votes is going to be a camera that I end up shooting a roll of film through and recording a review about. Has it lived up to the lofty expectations of a sleeper SLR system? Is it great? Is it terrible? Who really knows? I'm not going to include the super program in this poll because I feel like I've talked about those a lot. I might make a separate video, and I also think that for polls on the community tab, you can only have 4 options. So it's going to be the N2000, the Nikon EL2, the Canon AG-1, and the OMPC. Obviously, I'm going to have to buy an OMPC because I do not have one, but the other 3 I have right here. So I will be giving the poll a week so I can compile as many votes as possible. And whether this is a camera you want to see because you think it's a great camera and you want me to enjoy the experience of using it, or because you think it could be a terrible camera and I could really not enjoy my experience using it. Whatever your reason for voting, just make sure to go ahead and vote. I appreciate that support, and I think ultimately it could lead to a very interesting and fun video, one that will corroborate the evidence I have provided for you today. So thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it very, very much. Like this video if you enjoy, subscribe to the channel, and also go ahead and vote. I appreciate it abundantly, and I'll catch you on the next one.